What up, Marsh Pod? We are recording this. We're on the road, so obviously not the normal confines for this little bad boy. We got a little four-piece of SimWorld U that we are diving into after a pretty hectic week. Miami goes down. Duke doesn't look good. Houston wasn't consistent. UConn, where we're going to get to, wasn't all that great as well. Oklahoma continues to be awful. But let's start with Duke, who's going to be benching Demario Duval in favor of Scoochie Nelson as they look to try to add a little bit of defense. This is overdone, or overdue, rather. This was something that was talked about right after the first game. It's continued through the entire week, 2 weeks, first 2 weeks of the season. Perimeter-wise, this team just doesn't have the number of pieces they need on the defensive side. Jeremiah Minor is way too. I'm surprised that they're going with Minor or Duval as the guy moving to the bench in favor of Jeremiah Minor, who I'm just a little concerned about his offensive ability. He's been a guy that, yeah, he's aggressive, but he profiles so well as like a Lou Williams type of sixth man, where he's aggressive with the basketball when he needs to be, but he's not somebody who's proven to fit in really well with a group that needs cohesion. And this offense right now for Duke does not have cohesion. So they moved Duval to the bench. Roderick Little is a dog. I mean, he's a fiend on both ends of the floor despite his size, but that was always going to be the challenge for this team, is the lack of size with 6'2", 6'1", and 5'11", with Duval, Roderick Little, and Jeremiah Minor. So adding some defense. Also, this team doesn't need more offense on the offensive side. You've got Cooper Flagg, who is a hound ball or a greyhound with the basketball. I mean, he has been absolutely unstoppable in every game he's been in. Sure, he might have a quiet night here or there, but he's an unguardable player in SimWorld U. You really don't need another scorer on the floor. And I personally believe Roderick Little is a more ideal second piece for him. Again, Jeremiah Minor, maybe not an ideal piece, but John Shayer's right to do whatever he does. You need defense on this team, because while you can sit here and say, well, we've got Cooper Flagg and Victor Silgauskas in the paint, we're good defensively, you're not good defensively when you don't have any ability to stop anybody on the perimeter. And as it sits right now, that's not been happening with this guard trio. Roderick Little can hold his own, but the big question mark always for this team is going to be is, can they hold their own against teams that actually utilize size? And in their opener against LSU, that didn't happen. The last couple games, it has in fact happened against Duke. That needs to change, and so this is a quick move at the coaching from a coaching standpoint for a team that many would still expect to be a championship contender. But I think it's the right move in terms of what the goal is and the strategy is. I might disagree with the player. I still think Minor is better served off the bench, but that's neither here nor there. They're actually making a move. I like this one because you need to find some type of a defensive identity besides, well, if they get through our weak front line that's not named Roderick Little, we've got Cooper Flagg and Victor Silgauskas there, because you're going to play against teams that are going to stretch you out, that are make it impossible for you to always have somebody in the paint defending, that opens up the alleyways for those paint attacks that we saw, for example, against St. Mary's. UConn, they lose. They did not have a good week, and I think that this is a legitimate reason for concern for this team. The big question mark, we've 1 week in both directions. The truth is somewhere in between there, right? It might not necessarily be UConn of week 1 where they rolled. It might not necessarily be UConn of week 2 where they got rolled. Truth is probably somewhere in between there, but somewhere in between there is not a championship team, okay? It's a team that got good basketball players. It's a good guard trio that they're running out there, but it's not a guard trio that's capable of winning a national championship. It's just not, okay? It's a guard trio that does not do a great job of finding ways to be impactful on the defensive side of the ball. It's a basketball team as a whole that if you can sit here and say, well, we got 3 guys who could score. That's great. But when you go up against other teams with elite guards and good defensive guards, you're going to have trouble when your big men can't seem to get it done. And that, I think, is the situation that we've got for UConn. This is just not a team that profiles, and it's 2 weeks, so this is going to change. They're going to make schematic. Dan Hurley is maybe the best coach in college basketball. They're going to make schematic adjustments that make this team better. I don't think it's the sky is falling panic, but the way they've looked has not instilled confidence that this is a championship team. It's too early to sit here and say definitively they're not. But what they've shown us is an inconsistency. And maybe as we get more pieces of information, which is always why it's challenging at any point early in a season to like really dissect teams. I mean, for example, SWFL. I mean, the Saints are 2-4 now after getting beat by Tampa today. After week 2, it's like, are the Saints the best team in the NFC South? And it's like, no, obviously they're not. It's the Falcons, who just beat the I'm drawing a blank, but they just won. Or it's the Buccaneers, the Panthers. The Bucs just beat the Falcons just are beating the Panthers as we record this. Those two teams are probably the best. But 2 weeks in, we're saying it could be the Saints. To UConn, I'm not saying they can't be a championship team, but they have things to figure out right now. And I think the things that they need to figure out is what do they get outside of their guards? Because their guards are good. We know that their guards are good. But are they going to be able to last in a good conference? The Big East is a very good conference, but also when you just look nationally, could they last against a Texas with Arthur Lattimore? Could they last against Duke with Cooper Flagg? Right now, the answer is no. That can change, but right now the answer is no. All right, moving straight along, we go, and that's to Tennessee, where the Vols are the best team in basketball, best team in college basketball. There's no argument. They're number one. They have to be number one. Miami lost. Duke fell off the map. Tennessee is the greatest team, and with what they're doing right now, and I think UCLA at 2, Kentucky at 3. I think you could swap 2 and 3. I think those two guys are interchangeable between UCLA and Kentucky, but Kentucky and Tennessee profile. And it's why those two teams met in the SEC championship game last year, because they profile identically the same. They've got an elite wing, Trey Turner, Tennessee does, and an elite big man, Henrik Vekic. Meanwhile, Wildcats have an elite wing, Glory Tate, and an elite big man in Jamison Johnson. But what Tennessee's doing is they've got two guys that play so well off of each other. Henrik Vekic is an elite, and he's much better than Jamison Johnson is at being a playmaker. I'm not saying Vekic is a better player than Jamison Johnson. He's a better playmaker than Jamison Johnson. And when you have a guy like Trey Turner who runs so well off ball, who operates so well off ball, and also, by the way, can operate exceptionally well with the ball in his hands, there's a very difficult way to stop them. And it's why Tennessee hasn't been stopped. It's why UConn had no answer. Because you say, okay, we have to sell out to stop Trey Turner. Then Henrik Vekic is going to go bananas. You say, okay, well, let's adjust. Let's stop Henrik Vekic from getting wrong. Psych, Trey Turner is going to go nuclear. It's very similar to what the Denver Nuggets did on the way to their SWBA championship 2 seasons ago. Jamal Murray played out of his mind, and Nikola Jokic played out of his mind, and Jokic is the best player in basketball at a SWBA level. That's what, for SimWorld U right now, that's what Tennessee is. They have to be unanimous number one. If I can understand if you want to take Kentucky, if you want to take UCLA, I'm going to understand it. But you can't tell me they're better overall. I understand it. I don't believe it. And that's what Tennessee's doing. They have been, in my opinion, the best team in college basketball. Kentucky and UCLA are right behind them. They've been very good, but Tennessee is head and shoulders right now. Again, 2 weeks. This could change. But as we sit here today on October 13th as we record it, that's the best team. The not best team is Oklahoma. Now they're the worst team? No, they're not. But I think there's room to panic because this team looks exactly like they looked a season ago when they won, 7, 8, 9 games, something like that. And we preseason rank them at number 10 because, well, they got Suno Chapa. Watch out. And I'm still a huge Suno Chapa believer. I think that this team is probably going to make some adjustments as they should to get the ball in Suno Chapa's hands much more often than they have been. But this is still a team that's trying to figure out the rest of it. Jason McGinnis has been good, but he hasn't been consistently good. Suno Chapa's been good, but he hasn't been consistently good. And what happens when you have guys not being consistently good is you as a team, your best 2 players aren't consistently good. Your 2 best teams become not consistently good. And that's what Suno Chapa that's what Oklahoma has become. Not very good. There's time to turn this thing around, but the early results, 2 weeks in, is that this basketball team is not built for much. This is a building year, it appears, for Oklahoma. The problem is what are you building for? Because you're not like LSU, where you have Kai Killens coming in. You're not like North Carolina. You're not like Ohio State, right? You're not like these programs that have already established we've gotten commitments from number 1 recruits, from top recruits, maybe not number 1s. You can't have multiple number 1, but top 5 recruits. They haven't gotten that yet. They need that to make this building year worth it, because as it sits now, I'd be shocked if Jason McGinnis leaves. Not that he's got unfinished business or something like that. I don't know that he profiles just yet. Maybe he does. Maybe he can make a leap as a first-round pick. I could see it. But Oklahoma as a championship contender right now, as they're built, is not there yet. All right, EM giveaway time. We're through this at the end. Made you listen. You couldn't just find it in the middle. Maybe we have to find it in the middle. We got 3 people. 4 winners of last week. That's Justin Zhang, Cyrus Jackson, and Jason Hawkins. Jason Hawkins, sorry, Jason. Those 3. So Justin Zhang, Cyrus Jackson, Jason Hawkins, each getting 1,000 EMs. So congrats, that's awesome. We're going for this one this week. Give me the number 3, and then why did we switched up the 3 that we did? But 3, give me the number 3, and then what's your order of top 3? Right? It's boy, great. Here we go. Tennessee, right? It is UCLA. It's Kentucky. Is that right? Is that wrong? Should somebody else be in there? So 3, and then give me your top 3 in SimWorld U for the top 25. And again, that's Justin Zhang, Cyrus Jackson, Jay Sean Hawkins. Congrats on the EMs. We'll be back next week, back on Monday. We'll be cooking. We'll be rolling. We'll talk to you then.